Alrighty, we're going to continue now. Let's continue with our live coverage here. Perhaps turning our attention back to the continent, taking a look at Zimbabwe. Zimbabwean government have officially kick-started the lawmaking process of its controversial constitutional amendments. It's by gazetting the bill for wider constructive reforms, such as the extension of the term of the current leadership, where, according to a government gazette, which was published this week, the bill introduces a constructive reform set that seeks to harmonize Zimbabwe's constitutional order. Many opposition figures have already indicated that they will fight the bill. On Monday, Professor Lovemore Madhuku filed an application at the Constitutional Court. This was on behalf of 6 war veterans seeking an order declaring Cabinet's approval of the Constitutional Amendment Bill, number 3, null and void, and then interdicting President Mnangagwa from assenting to draft these laws. Trying to ascertain, make sense of what this really means. In studio, we're actually joined by political activist Mbizo Jealousy Mawarire. Good afternoon, and thank you for your time at this point. So, I think for context's sake, setting what this gazetting ultimately entails, the framework that's being proposed, tell us what's happening in real time.
What it means is there are amendments, a battery of amendments that have been introduced, and they seek to bring in quite a lot of things that have an impact on the electoral system, on how we conduct our elections, and how even chiefs, traditional chiefs, are supposed to be roped into political parties. Currently, the Constitution outlaws them from participating in any partisan activity. So, but basically, the overarching objective is to extend the president's term from 2028, when it constitutionally ends, to 2030. So it's an extension. They seek an extension of 2 years. And that is done, and on the understanding that we want a moratorium, sort of, to cool down political violence in the country. That's the argument that those proponents of the bill are giving us. They are also telling us that they are borrowing best practices from South Africa. But we shudder to think what kind of best practices that they are borrowing from South Africa, because we have a constitution right now which guarantees a lot of freedoms in sections 58, section 67. It guarantees political rights. It guarantees even the right to demonstrate. But today, as we speak, the leader of the NCA, Professor Lovemore Madhuku, whom you quoted in your introduction, has been beaten by policemen, simply for convening a meeting to discuss the amendments.
So let's get into that. The political vacuum that exists when you have an opposition that isn't able to freely exercise its role in the democratic project. Tell us a little bit more about the concerns on that front and also how that's playing out.
The concerns are numerous, and they impact on our participation, on the governance of the country. It is ironic that the gazetting of that constitutional amendment bill gives us 90 days as citizens to engage and to submit our whether it's our disquiet or our approval of the amendments. But right now, if you try to organize a meeting, you are arrested. Yesterday, an MP for Wange, Daniel Molokelo, was arrested just for holding a meeting with his constituents. So today, the leader of the NCA has been beaten. The launch of the Constitutional Defenders Forum has been stopped by the police. So that's the kind of environment that we are having these amendments in. And you can actually see that the amendments are meant to do away with elections, to do away with citizen participation in electoral processes, because they also want to change Section 91, subsection 2 of the Constitution, which allows Zimbabweans, every Zimbabwean who is 18 and above and eligible to vote and is registered to vote, to elect the president directly. They want to take away that right and give it to Parliament. And that's what we are saying. The war of liberation in Zimbabwe was waged for universal suffrage, one man, one vote, they said that time. And that's a right that we have been enjoying as Zimbabweans, because Zimbabweans could vote for an MP from their political party, and a president from another political party. That was the right that we have, and they want to take away that right. And they are taking away that right ostensibly on the understanding that they are giving us best practices borrowed from South Africa. But we haven't seen banning of political meetings in South Africa. We haven't seen the use of army, the use of the police in stopping political meetings here in South Africa.
So what message does it send to the youth then, the incoming, perhaps who are looking for that political change, but even in the greater scheme of what's transpired on the continent itself, right? The precedents that has been set when we've seen such actions ensuing in the past.
What it means to the youth is that you have no freedom. You have no freedom to organize yourself and to register your disquiet over what the president and his party are doing, especially even on an important national document, a foundational document like the Constitution. You are not allowed to gather around and discuss the amendments that they have proposed. And they are actually trying to run away even from constitutional requirements, like the requirement in Section 328 of the Constitution that any amendment that has an effect of changing the term of office of the president or anyone who occupies a constitutionally provided position has to go through a referendum. Yeah. They don't want to hear about that. Okay. If you talk about that, if you talk about the referendum, they accuse you of being an agent of regime change. They accuse you of fomenting trouble in the country. But here we are discussing a constitution that was made through a process of wide consultation in 2023. Yeah. And we're saying if you want to change it, if you want to effect the changes, then you have to go to the people. You have to go to the people for approval. That's exactly what we're saying. But the president is unleashing the police, is unleashing a vigilante group. Recently, we had a journalist who was incarcerated last year for 72 days, Blessed Mhlanga. He was invited by the United Nations to make a presentation, I think in Sweden. And immediately after he had made that presentation, we saw a flurry of messages from officials in the political party, in ZANU-PF, the youth leader, the deputy youth leader, saying this guy needs to be incarcerated, saying this guy needs to be killed. And there's a vigilante group actually created, which is called the Anti-Presidential Criticism Group. And that group has been threatening people on television, they're threatening people on social media, and once you criticize anything that the president is doing, those thugs are unleashed on you. And so that's the environment in which these changes are being done.
And so if there are going to be avenues for citizens to challenge what's on the cards, what avenues exist at this point? Because also it boils down to bread and butter issues, right? So the extension of leadership term, what are the economic realities that also plays in impacting the citizens at large, given the social contract that they've entered in?
You see, the unfortunate thing is that this thing has been coming, the constitutional changes have been coming, and the president, in order to prepare for this, he has been preparing since 2023 for these constitutional amendments. And what he has done, he actually went on a drive, an unprecedented drive in Zimbabwe of dishing out cars to influencers, cars to what do you call them, musicians. He's dishing out cars to even clowns, some clowns that are just clowning on social media. He has given out cars that are worth more than 20 million as we speak, 20 million United States dollars. Yeah. And that's what the cost on the economy, the cost on the fiscus of these amendments. And
the political consequences as well, particularly the reality for the next 5 years after elections.
Of course, ironically, they are saying that they want to extend, to postpone elections in order to ensure that there's peace and stability. But what we are seeing is they are fomenting insecurities, they're fomenting instability due to these amendments that they've proposed. Because the people of Zimbabwe had hearkened to Parliament when they said, we have gazetted this bill and you have 90 days to engage with the amendments. But what they have done now is every other group, every other avenue that you put in place in order to discuss these amendments. Either the venue is bombed, like what happened in October last year at the SABC Trust, or the participants are beaten, like what happened today in the afternoon with Professor Madhuku. And the avenue that was available could have been the courts. But if you have war veterans now taking the issue to court, and their lawyer, Professor Madhuku, is being beaten, then you really wonder where does the government want us to take our concerns?
Well,
and how do they want us to react?
Is it about national stability, political survival? There's lots of questions. Thank you for your time at this point, for weighing in, just making sense of what's transpired, given the constitutional amendments in Zimbabwe on the cards. Just getting some reactions and opposition to that by Bizo, Jealousy, Mama Rire, weighing in on some of those developments there as it continues.